how did you see that shift, from that daily small practice? How did that adjust how you design your life, how you give and receive what you're seeking to put out into this world and receive back? What did that do for you? Yeah. Do you mind diving into that a little bit?
Not at all. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
It has to start with the small steps, I feel. And that's how we learn to walk, right? We crawl, and then we take small steps, and we don't come out and just take off running. Mm-hmm. And our ego is very much the same way. If we start out by not even being able to hear kind words, then we're likely not going to have that confidence to love ourselves enough to know our truth, who we are, who our authentic self is. Yeah. So then how do we know how we desire to show up in the world? And once we know that, then how are we going to mirror that back out to the world to then create what we desire to create within it? And so for me, it was that kind of flow of, okay, I'm going to start with gratitude, then I'm going to receive with gratitude, and I'm going to give with gratitude. And then that opens up to me knowing, all right, I have the confidence to start diving into who I am and what I desire and how I desire to present that, not in an ego-centered way, but in a self-loving way, where I love self and I love you. It doesn't have to be separate. It is both. It isn't an either or, it is an and it is always an and. By loving myself, I love you. By loving you, I love myself. And so then it continued to grow from there. And I knew that there couldn't be a separation. And it created this whole desire within me to build this movement of love that we now have set in motion, because there are all of these qualities that start to build upon the other, that build upon the other, that build upon the other. Mm-hmm. And when you see the strength that comes from that, not only the strength within, but how it builds unity within your immediate circle. And then how that builds unity within their immediate circle, builds unity within their immediate circle. Then you see the strength that comes from starting to practice all of these different, what we call the key attributes, and to really embody them. Not just know that they're there, not just kind of talk about them, but to really embody them and to have these little practices like the giving and receiving journal, so you can take a step back and go, okay, what is balance in giving and receiving for me? Is it that I give more than I receive and that's okay? Or do I need to take some time to receive a little bit more because I am just so exhausted from giving so much? And I know that that's one of the places where you started. Yeah. You were exhausted because you had given so much of yourself. So can you talk a little bit about the process that you went through to kind of balance yourself back out and find your equilibrium between giving and receiving?
Definitely. I feel like a lot of people will relate to this because it seems to be a common thread when talking to people about giving and receiving. I know you and I have had these discussions for years. From my understanding, at first, it was that the best way to be loving is to be giving, is to be almost sacrificial of yourself.
Yeah.
And we are taught that on so many levels. And so that was, just like anything, there's obviously beauty in that, of course, because there was much that was given, and that's a beautiful thing. But at some point, when we give so much that we start to lose ourselves, or we feel lost within ourselves, we feel empty, we can't give anymore. And then that affects the whole goal, the whole purpose of what we're seeking to do in that moment. I know you always shared this incredible story, or even analogy about kind of the secret to self-love. And that's being that overflowing pitcher of water. If we're a pitcher of water and that's all we are, right? And we just give that water to another cup and another cup and another cup, eventually that pitcher doesn't have any more water. But when we choose to be that overflowing pitcher of water, then that pitcher is always full, and then always has enough from the overflow to give to those cups around it. And it's so simple, and it's in that explanation. But I remember when you said that, and it was like, it was like, what? Yeah, like, of course. I mean, it makes so much sense. How have I not thought about it in that way? And so adjusting the giving to myself, not from a place of selfishness, because, again, that's another thing that we've been taught over and over.
So much. That
when we give to ourselves, that's a form of selfishness.
Yeah.
And to maybe some degree, some giving to self, it can be selfishness. I'm not discounting that in any way, shape, or form.
Well, when it comes from ego.
Right.
When it moves from self-care to self-centered.
Oh, exactly.
I would offer.
Very well said. Exactly. And so adjusting that, flipping that ideology and that understanding, and expanding my awareness of what it meant to actually give to myself, that was truly empowering. That to me was one of the greatest exponential growth in self-love that I had, was just that understanding. Because I could give to myself. That was me being that overflowing pitcher of water, because I knew the more that I was giving to myself through self-love, from heart-centered giving in gratitude, then the more that I could give to those around me. And then it wasn't just a pitcher, it was that waterfall. And both to myself and to those around me. I knew that the more love I had for myself, the more love I could give to those around me. And through that could then shape my doing and how I expressed that, experienced it, how I gave and received in the physical. And so it was really understanding, to me, balance, to kind of hit the other side of that question, is really about finding the alignment. So giving and receiving, not just from the physical, but as we were talking about earlier, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual side of giving and receiving, taking the time to reflect and align all the way through. When we can do that, I mean, that really allows us to truly design our lives in the way and experience our lives in the way that we wholeheartedly desire at the very core of our being. It opens up to things like abundance. As you were saying, when we're giving and receiving, how many times did those experiences where someone gave me a gift or a compliment and I was like, no. Mm-hmm. How many times did the universe give me something like that, something in kind, something in love, something that I actually desired, and I just went, no.
Yes.
When it started to shift into those kind of things, my unconscious understanding of my unconscious habits were taking over. Mm-hmm. And until I became conscious, became aware, and became more intentional behind how I chose to give and receive, then I felt like the universe was giving me exactly what I was seeking. And then I could receive it in love. I could receive it in kind, receive it in gratitude. And then I could then give back to the universe in the exact same way. And then it created that beautiful cycle